Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be discussing room acoustics. Have you ever felt that the dialogues from your speaker isn't really clear or muddled, even though your speakers are of good quality? Then you might not be alone, and this case might be because of room acoustics, or your room simply isn't treated properly. So in today's video, we're going to explore the basic problems, how to identify them and how to rectify them, which would lead to better room acoustics and then obviously better sound coming to your ears. So let's get started. In this video, we will just do very few simple tests. The first one being the clap test. Now, the clap test, in order to demonstrate, I'm just going to clap over here really close to the mic. So you will hear just one distinct clap. And since this room is not treated, then I will clap a little further away from the microphone, so you'll hear very two distinct claps. So here it is. And then the second one. So in the first one, if you've noticed, since it was really close to the microphone, the sound really died quickly. But in the second one, it wasn't close to the microphone. So there were a lot of reflections coming into the microphone while the sound directly propagating as well. So there was reverberation or echo. Since a clap can do this in an untreated room, now you can imagine what can happen to a speaker if I put it in this room. There will definitely be reverberation. So I would have to treat the room. In your case, if the sound dies very quickly, then you do have good room acoustics. If it doesn't, then you might need treatment. If you can't rely on your ears directly, you can use a microphone as well. It's the same effect when you take a call in a bathroom, you have a lot of echo. Anybody can figure out that you're in a bathroom since there's a lot of echo and reverberation. But when you go into a room, they can hear you clearly. It's the same thing. The second test is the walkaround test. Now, bass sounds can be tricky. In some spots of your room, the bass might be too loud or too boomy, while in other spots, it might be weak, as if it's about to disappear. So this is due to standing waves. What I would suggest is you play a test tone, a bass test tone. It can be a repeating frequency or it can be a single frequency, whatever you want to choose. But it has to be consistent. And then walk around the room. If you walk around the room and then you hear places where the bass is loud and places where the bass is really low, then you do have a problem. Now comes the mirror test. So the mirror test is basically to identify the first reflection points. Now these are spots where sound from your speakers reflects off a ceiling or wall or be it any reflective surface, and then you hear two sounds or multiple sounds at the same time. This will basically make it seem like the sound is unclear or muddled. So this diminishes the sound stage. How you can do this is you have to sit in your main listening position and you need someone else to help you out with this. Just take a mirror, any kind of mirror. It can be a handheld mirror or a piece of mirror, whatever it is. You just need a mirror as big as your palm maybe. As an example, this is how you do it. With the handheld mirror, slide it across the wall from your listening position till the speaker is visible, and repeat this process for every reflective surface like glass wall or ceiling if possible, and mark those locations. These are your first reflection points. And you have to do this with all the walls that are surrounding the speaker and the ceiling, if you can reach it safely. Now that we know what the problems are, for every problem, I will state a solution or multiple solutions. And depending on your problem, you can pick and choose what solution you would want to put. So first comes the clap test. So for the clap test, which would solve the problem of echoes and reverberation, you need absorptive materials. Now for absorptive materials, you can choose rugs or carpets, curtains or drapes, or upholstered furniture. Now all of these things will help diminish the reverberation or echo that you have in your room. If you have any bare windows, try to cover them up with fabric curtains or fabric blinds. The thicker the fabric, the better it is. Bare windows are just like giant mirrors for your sound. So cover them up when your speakers are active. You can also go with bookshelves with books. They are highly absorptive. Wall hangings or art, especially if they're made up of canvas, that is also highly absorptive. Pillowcases and blankets that you can put over your sofas, those again absorb a lot of sound. So if your sofa or your couch doesn't have a throw, you might consider getting one. How do you rectify the second problem that we had identified? The bass problem. Now, bass loves to build around corners. The way to rectify this is by getting absorptive materials in the corners. Think of big, heavy plants if you can. And if you can invest in a bass trap, that's nothing like it. But if you can't put bass traps, you can either put a thick, tall plant in the corners. You can put blankets or towels or any kind of fabric in the corner, which will help absorb the sound. Even a small squishy beanbag would do the job over here. The second way to rectify this problem is to move your subwoofer around. Move it in inches, I would say. Don't do it in feet. So take a multiple of 3 or 4 inches. So move it a little bit and see how the sound is, and then move it again if it's not adequate. Even 6 to 8 inches can make a world of a difference. So try moving it around a bit and see what is more comfortable. And the third way of rectifying this is to move your listening position, if that's possible. So if your listening position, if it can be moved, try moving it around, and if possible, see if that makes a difference. If it does, then I would suggest that you shift your listening position again, if possible. The third test that we did, the mirror test. So with the mirror test, what you need to do is wherever on the wall the speaker was visible at the listening position, you need to put highly absorptive materials over there. Now, I would suggest that you put a high density foam, but if in case you can't do that, you can go with thick fabric, if that's possible. And if that's not possible, you can go with wall art, canvas based, which would absorb the sound. So the goal over here is very simply to put absorptive materials where the speaker is visible from the listening position through the mirror. Now that we've identified all of this, here are a few tips that you can use in order to get better sound from your speakers, however your room is. So the first one is equilateral triangle. When you're setting up a 2.1 system, a stereo system, try to put the speakers and your listening position in an equilateral triangle. So the distance between the stereo speakers and the distance between each of the speakers to you should be equal. Now this, I would say, is a good starting point. Every room is different, every ear is different. So you might have to tweak it a little bit. The second is toe-in angle. So toe in your speakers where your listening position is. The left speaker should be aimed somewhere over here, and the right speaker should be aimed somewhere over here. This helps focus the sound and reduce wall reflections. Third, keep your speakers away from the wall, especially if they're backported. Try to pull your speakers 6 to 12 inches away from the wall, and even more so from corners. This prevents excessive bass buildup, and this would create clearer sound. So in case your speakers are front ported, there is a greater margin of error, but in case your speakers are backported, then you definitely have to follow this. The fourth and final recommendation would be to balance your room. Make sure your room is symmetrical. So in case your room is symmetrical, this would mean that the sound is balanced on both sides of the room where your stereo speakers are placed. So this would create a more even sound. Avoid having one side of the room completely bare and the other side filled up with furniture. Improving your room acoustics doesn't need to be complicated or expensive. Just by simple everyday methods, you can improve your room acoustics and make sure that your speakers sound the best. And you can dramatically improve the quality of your movies, your speakers, and dialogues. It's all about making your room work with sound, not against it. Let me know if all of these tips have helped you and made a difference in your speaker setup.